I wasn't sure if did you cover off that section of the Russell Road there in the earlier discussion today? Or
no, I'm quite interested on the.
I can give an update on that if you like as part of this.
Because they did go out for consultation removing that designation.
Yes, the Minister put out a notice earlier on the year which we submitted on, and the notice itself put forward.
How to just remind people, because people sometimes lose the track of things because not everyone's on the District Plan Review Committee. But we submitted in favour of removing the designation or the change of zoning on that piece of land.
So
you want to describe the piece of land, describe the zoning it has now, the zoning that the alert put on it, and then what the Minister was consulting on, and then tell us what happened.
I'll try my best.
Okay.
So what this paper does is provide you with an update on the alert review, which started in about May last year, or even April last year, and we submitted on this twice, and I think the final was essentially managed by Environment Canterbury. They provided their recommendations to the Minister in about September last year. Early on this year, as part of that alert review process, the Minister, or Sarah, put out a public notice, and the notice basically sought comment from any member of the public about the possible removal of what is known as the Avonhead Greenfield Priority Area, and that's that area in and around the cemetery, adjacent to the Dakota Park access to Christchurch International Airport, so just off Russley Road. And so we saw comments for a 10-day period. We submitted on that, or commented on that, and agreed with what was being proposed, i.e. that the Greenfield Priority Area be uplifted from the Land Use Recovery Plan, and that would also remove it from the Canterbury Regional Policy Statement. However, in the final alert review, or the final decisions on the alert, the Minister decided to uplift that Greenfield Priority Area designation, for want of a better description.
Yes, Brad.
You're saying that the Minister proposed to uplift it and then decided not to? And did he give a reason for that?
No, not that I'm aware of. I presume it was simply a matter of considering the submissions, and there were probably submissions which were made for and against uplifting it. So after having considered those, Sarah, the Minister, decided not to uplift the Greenfield Priority Area designation. But in the correspondence that I've seen, there's really no mention of it. It simply lists the decisions that were made to change the LURP. It doesn't indicate the decisions that weren't made in any detail. So
is there a record of the submissions? Are they publicly viewable?
Yeah. Yes, they'll probably be on the DPMC website, and I think I've provided a link to that in my report to you. If you turn to page 512, there's a link to the, and I've included some of that documentation, although not all of it, in the appendix to the report. And so that's the public notice. Same information we've received is that notice here. If you read that public notice, you'll see there's no reference to the Avonhead Greenfield Priority Area. But just to finish off answering the question put to me, the one issue which is not yet resolved and which is currently for the Independent Hearings Panel is what the zoning will be for that. So you can imagine we have a hierarchy of planning documents, and the LURP being up here, being the higher order document that we need to give effect to as part of our district plan review. And that's saying, well, we think this area is appropriate for industrial uses, then that matter of rezoning it to industrial still needs to be decided on by the Independent Hearings Panel. Now, the hearing has been held for that, but a decision is yet to be released. So at this stage, the zoning sits as it currently is, which is Rural 5 or Rural Urban Fringe. And that's, as the name would suggest, the Rural Urban Fringe. I think it's no subdivision less than 4 hectares, that sort of carry on. So it's anticipated rural zone. So that the Independent Hearings Panel was yet to make a decision on that rezoning.
Okay. Thank you.
Doesn't it leave us in a tricky position that the nothing that the independent hearings panel can determine for our district plan or the replacement district plan can be inconsistent with the provisions of the LURP?
Yes, that's correct. However, in terms of considering that the independent hearings panel will also need to address the issues that have been raised, such as infrastructure constraints. And certainly one of the concerns that we raised with them was the potential issues associated with access to the state highway, which is adjacent to it.
Well, that's a huge concern.
Yes, so the independent hearing panel will need to balance up that direction of not being inconsistent with the LURP and having to give effect to the regional policy statement with the concerns raised about the lack of infrastructure to service the redevelopment and potential issues associated with opening that up adjacent to a state highway network where we've got the Memorial Ave interchange proposed in reasonably close proximity to a new access.
So, I just can't find the submissions on the website, so they must be here. What was the joined up Crown position on it?
In terms of the...
in terms of that area of land.
So in terms of the district plan review, or in terms of on the LURP, the Crown proposed, or the Minister proposed to uplift the designation but didn't pursue it. As part of the district plan review.
Having a reason why leaves us in a bit of a quandary, because I know that I don't think that the residents out there realise this.
I'm not sure if they do or they don't. It was only a process that we got involved in via submissions, so it's not a process that we managed.
Yeah.
But the thing that they're probably waiting to see decided is the decision of the independent hearings panel, which is we're yet to receive.
But the independent hearings panel will make the decision without hearing any more submissions and completely without the knowledge of what the submissions were. And
so they'll make their decision independent of the LURP, because the LURP hasn't changed. It'll still have a greenfield priority area sitting on top of it, but as I mentioned, they'll have to weigh up the need to not be inconsistent with that, give effect to the regional policy statement, the other issues that we raised via our evidence, as did others, of traffic effects associated with potential access to the state highway and other infrastructure constraints as well. So there will be a decision of the independent hearings panel.
Okay, I think that I'm trying to get to understand how if the minister went out and publicly consulted on something, in fact that it's just not included. Maybe he hasn't finished his determination on it, or was it for the purposes of this review of the land use recovery plan? I mean, could it be something that's still awaiting a final result?
No, the land use recovery plan's been reviewed. I don't think there's any intention, as far as I'm aware, to make any further changes to it, but obviously that would be a decision for the minister supporting earthquake recovery. As recovery plans still have that weight afforded to them under the Regeneration Act, as I've mentioned in my report.
Well, could we just get a memo on this? I can't find the submissions.
I can't find the submissions on the website.
Could we do a quick analysis of the submissions?
Yeah, because they didn't come to us, so they went to Sarah, and Sarah considered them and presumably provided advice to the minister on that matter.
Yeah, we need to get the submissions, we need to get the advice that went to the minister, because at the moment we're sort of shooting in the dark really. We don't know why he didn't proceed with the decision to resolve it.
And the community is expecting that uplift.
Yeah, but it's the other LURP submissions. These are what we're looking for, the submission, not the submissions on the LURP. We're looking for the submissions on the minister's public
proposal to remove, uplift the greenfield priority.
So they won't be on the ECAN website, will they?
No, because it wasn't administered by ECAN, it was administered by Sarah, so it might now be on the DPMC website, but I'll need to check that.
Okay. So if you could get us that, I think it's quite important because there will be a lot of public interest in one, why that didn't proceed, and two, how will the independent hearings be? Because I mean, I think our efforts in this regard are going to be paramount, because I mean, we were very clear that our objection to the designation remaining was that it was the impact on the turning out of in terms of the main highway there. There's a huge amount of work that's going on there at the moment, but that area is just going to get, I mean, it will get freer, but it'll get fast. I mean, it's going to be a very, very challenging area. So, I mean, I just can't see that it's got any reason to change its designation in that regard. Right?
I can certainly provide you with a memo on that.
Great. Yanni?
Yeah, I just wanted to check, in our submission, we supported Area 3, possibly. We said it might not be appropriate to delete the entire Area 3, but we supported the deletion of Area 1. So just a little confused, just trying to understand. The concern that the community have is over that Area 3, not Area 1. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's the area that in our submission we said there needs to be more work and shouldn't be deleted in its entirety.
Yep, so you need to think that there was 3 submission or comment opportunities as part of this process. And when we first started engaging with Sarah on this over a year ago now, we were still doing some further work on what the infrastructure constraints were. So we flagged the issue to the Minister that there were these constraints there. And then by the time we got to the public notice being put out early this year, we'd done sufficient work to be in a clear enough position to say, yes, we agree it should be uplifted.
Okay,
so that was our final position on it.
Cool. Great, thanks for clarifying that.
Very good. All right. Have we got that moved and seconded? No. Would someone like to move that we support? Yay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. That's carried. Thanks very much, Richard. Joint public transport establishment. Phil?
So there's some amendments that I would seek and we've had some discussion about. Look, the report I think is really clear, and I guess in some ways it depends on our interpretation of how the sort public transport committee can work, and I hope will work. Just taking it back a step, we as a council have agreed in principle to set up such a committee. That's the first thing. The other thing too is it is clear in the report, in fact, this joint PT committee, it isn't going to necessarily achieve everything for us in terms of running public transport. Okay? We all understand that. I think what's important is it is also clear that it can be, and I believe must be, a first step to achieve that. There are plenty of ways we can, in time, set up a single transport authority that this city runs in due course. I'm aware, though, that in terms of the legislation around the funding for public transport, subsidies for buses, that in fact we must work in a collaborative way with our other partners who listen to the report as EGAN and the other 2 smaller councils. I'm aware that there's certain potential for smaller district councils to really start deciding on Christchurch City's transport. However, it's essential that our public transport be fixed. We heard from the young people about that today. And if you look at transport altogether, the different reports that come to our Infrastructure, Transport and Environment Committee, the parts around roading and the Northern Arterial and motorways are being dealt with. The parts around our cycleways are underway. We're in the starting blocks of those. No question of that. The bit in the middle we must do, and I think we're unanimous on this, is our public transport system. So, I think really in the report it's clear that there's an emphasis on working collaboratively and cooperatively, and I think that's what we need to do at this stage. So with some amendments, I'm certainly happy to move the staff recommendations to be council recommendations. And in effect, we make a decision on it.
So you'd like to move the recommendation and you want to add the names?
Well, look, there's been a lot of informal discussion, and I think that's really good. And it does come back to time that councillors have. And I'm actually really rapt, that Leanne Amir has indicated that she will give her time, energy and skills to this committee. So, and I'm also really pleased that all the work that Councillor Pauline Cotter has done on the Public Transport Working Group, which really is a forerunner to this, that Pauline has also agreed to name forward, and in sharing that, the last Public Transport Working Group, I'm also prepared to put my name up. So, and I thank the councillors who have agreed to have your names up, and Leanne Amir for doing that, because there is some time involved.
Well, I'll second the motion then, and in speaking to it, just simply say that I've agreed to put my name forward for this committee because I want to signal how important public transport is to the city. It seems to me that the earthquake experience that we had as a city was actually an opportunity to get this right. And it's probably a matter of some disappointment that we hadn't moved towards seizing the opportunity as a country, really, to put right the situation here in Christchurch and enable us to trial innovative ways of getting people around what is a city that still does not provide the final flow of direction that it will do when it's completely recovered. And a much more agile and nimble system would have been, I think, preferable than sticking to routes and then introducing a hub and spokes model at a time when people were already quite devastated by the earthquake and actually not following the same traditional travel patterns of the city. So I think it was a big mistake to introduce quite a dramatic change to the system that, although you can say it went through a public consultation and there were submissions and hearings, and I know as a Member of Parliament I hosted a meeting with one of the regional council's staff members so that local New Brighton people could have a say about the proposed changes in those areas. And I actually found a submission that I made to the City Council on their annual plan at the time about how the need was for an interchange at New Brighton, not because it was a at the end of a, well, it wasn't a hub so much in terms of a central position, and it was a hub and a spoke at the same time, but it was at the end of the spoke. And actually the model never worked for places like New Brighton because several bus services terminated in New Brighton with the leg that carried on down the South Brighton spit. The amount of damage that was done in that area due to the earthquakes, much smaller buses should have been feeder buses straight away. It took, I think, 2.5 years for a feeder bus to be put around the Dallington area that was affected by the closure of the Gayhurst Road Bridge. You know, so there are so many different elements, and I guess I know the East better than a lot of people in terms of the bus services. I used to catch the bus into town every Friday night, just about. I'd get off at bus interchange. So when the businesses came to us in Riccarton and told us what the impact of having a bus interchange in the middle of a group of shops, I knew that what they were telling us would happen was the truth, because it's what I saw every Friday when I went into town. So, you know, it's I think that sometimes it's really important. I know that one of the councillors challenged me on the use of the phrase ground truther, but unless you ground truth it, unless you understand what a particular theoretical model is actually going to do when you want young people like the ones we heard from this morning who won't get on the bus because they don't know whether how long they're going to have to wait for the spoke route to come along and connect them up with a hub. And they have to get on and off buses. They have to cross the busiest roads in Christchurch to do so. I just think that our system is broke and it needs fixing. And I want our city to be leading the way, not following in hot pursuit. So I'm sort of putting my stake in the ground by going on to a committee. It's not the end result that I want. I don't want a joint public transport committee that's controlled by the region and by the two small district councils. I want the Christchurch City Council to lead the development of a proper public transport, integrated public transport system that enables cyclists to use the buses as well. It enables people to get around the city smoothly and enables people to have the freedom to move in a less congested environment. And I don't believe for 1 minute that the benefit is experienced by those who use the bus alone. And for those who say putting up the bus fares is the way to resolve the problem of decreased patronage, I would suggest that it's probably the reverse that would be true. You reduce the bus fares, but you make the buses reliable and way more efficient than getting in cars. You make the driving experience better for everyone who stays in cars. You make the cycling experience better for everyone, and you make the bus travel the priority that it should be so that you can get to where you're going a lot quicker. And if you do those things, then you'll have an excellent system, which is what those young people were told they were coming to Christchurch to experience. So there. I ain't going to give up.
Can I just ask, because whenever you talk about public transport, we hear about cycles, cars and buses. At the risk of banging on about it, will there be a commitment for this organisation to also look at rail?
I'm absolutely committed. So, I want us to use all of the new technologies that are coming. I mean, we had a test drive on an electric car today. We've got a trial car available for councillors to use over the next week. So, we can talk to you about a simple booking system so you can give it a go. But also, there are buses that are being developed that can run on rail. Yeah. And simple systems that can run on rail and road, I think that's the solution, because that would really get people moving very quickly.
There was a gentleman that came to one of the sessions and he's putting in a submission. He's got a whole lot of information on the Volvo bus. I think that's the wheels go up and that can go on rails. So it could go from Darfield or Rangiora or whatever, and then you can just hop off. So when it comes to a crossing, the wheels go up and it just drives on the road. So it's actually quite amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I don't see this as the model in any way, shape or form for the future of public transport in Christchurch. If we look at it, I appreciate it's going to happen, but I hope it happens for a very, very short time only. If we look at the possible models for public transport, and we look at this one gives ECAN 3 representatives, City Council 3 representatives, Selwyn 1, an independent chairperson 1, and WIMAC 1. So the people who will pay 90% of the cost of this model get a third of the representation on this group. I think that's just wrong. I think the model is wrong, and the reason it's wrong is because of the current system that we have, and because the government has not been sufficiently bold to put public transport into the city council. We have a clear hierarchy of what is transport: walking, biking, public transport, freight, and cars. And that's our model of what we base our transport system on. We have two choices. Either we have three choices. We leave the current system where a regional council, currently completely unelected, has been for 6 years, and to be unelected at least in half for the next 3 years, gets to control our public transport, takes Wi-Fi off the budget, introduces a hub and spokes model that nobody really wants, introduces changes to routes that people really don't know where to go to, and so they come to us because they don't know that ECAN does these things. Or we have the potential Auckland model, which takes the roads and all that goes on the roads out of the council structure and puts it into a separate company. And in many ways that's even worse, because when you're trying to build a community in any way, you absolutely have to have that space that the road involves. So I don't like this system at all, and I won't vote for it, I won't vote against it, because I appreciate it's going to go through. I don't like the fact that, for example, the budget in Selwyn for public transport infrastructure is a huge 10,000. It's massive. They get a third of the representation we do. Budget in WIMAC for public transport infrastructure, 45,000. Ours is, I don't know, millions. So what we end up with here is a make-do solution, because the government will not take the move to put public transport where it belongs, which is the Christchurch City Council. And then we include on that committee WIMAC and so on, and they make all the decisions that affect their area. Nobody's talking about taking them over yet, unless they at least. But I think this one just leaves so many annoying things to happen. We know that public transport has to innovate. We know that if we're going to meet our Paris obligations, we have to do quite major changes in terms of the fuels that we use. We know that people don't want to pay more bus fares, and yet they don't know where to tell people that. We know that we want to be able to put cycles on buses, all of those things. I appreciate this is a make-do, make the best of the mess that we've currently got, and that people are really committed to trying to make it work, and I appreciate that. But I just think that we're left in this situation because when the government looked at it, they did not come up with the best possible solution. And I have to say that Selwyn and WIMAC and ECAN were also sabotaging, well not sabotaging, but stopping the best possible solution being established in Christchurch, which, if the function lies in the urban area, should be administered by the urban area alongside every other aspect of footpaths, bikes, cars, roads, traffic lights, all of those things that the City Council controls. So to have a special thing that deals with the buses, which are so important in the city, is a sad sort of reflection on the fact that we haven't got a system in place for who controls public transport.
And then Glenn.
Thank you. I endorse the comment that has been made, but I think it's also more fundamental that actually the competitive service model of competing companies providing a public service is at the heart of why the passenger transport system doesn't work. The incentive for the companies that run it isn't to provide the best possible service for the passenger, it's to make as much profit as possible through a competitive tendering system, which is being shown in Christchurch to lead to a race to the bottom. So when we get buses on the roads that are death traps on wheels, that get pulled up by the police for not having adequate brakes, etc., is it any wonder if people don't go on the buses? What we actually need, and we should be petitioning and asking government, is in a post-disaster environment, even though I think it applied before the earthquake, that the funding model for public passenger transport is wrong in a city like Christchurch, with the huge expenditure that we're going through in terms of being asked to fund hundreds of millions of dollars of transport infrastructure in a city post-disaster, and yet we still have a competitive public transport system that actually doesn't enable us to give the benefit back to the people that use the service, but rather the private companies making money off it. So I think the model is fundamentally wrong, not just from the fact that the regional council runs the public passenger transport decisions, and that it is actually fundamentally wrong from how it's funded. So to do innovative things around offering reduced bus fares or free bus fares, which I think would be fantastic if you really want to get mode shift, we're constrained because of all these competitive tendering things that have to occur. So, I think it's a real shame we haven't been able to get the opportunity to rebuild actually what was I think historically in Christchurch, a world-class bus system, when there was actually a transport board that delivered the entire system, and it was recognised, I think, fairly well around the world, and throughout New Zealand as being one of the best systems. It was simple, easy to use. People knew what a red bus was. Now you've got different coloured buses going up and down. You've heard the complaints that have come in. You've got a system that's not designed to make it easy for people to use. And so we're also having to spend, largely because government have put in an accessible transport city plan, a huge amount of money on hard fixed infrastructure without any decision about where the bus routes go. And I think that's really, really unfair. So I appreciate that this committee is an attempt to try and have a little bit of a greater say, but I don't think it goes anywhere near enough. We should be actually approaching government with, I think, compelling reasons why we should actually overtake public passenger transport for the city and change the funding models.
Sorry, I thought I made it clear that that's exactly what we continue to do. So, Glenn, and then Tim, and then Phil.
Oh, thank you. I support this, as I can see that future steps would naturally bring public transport control back into the fold of a fully democratic elected authority. We've seen what's happened over the hubs and spokes model, the fee structure and the contracts. If it's back into the fold of a democratic body, there's a leverage that would exist for residents. You know, they have little voice at the moment to go to the commissioners. It's brought back under our control. They can put pressure on us. So it flips over. I mean, this is what we want to do anyway. The burden then goes back onto us to get it right. But I think this is what we want. We want a fully integrated system under one authority, and I totally support this.
Tim?
I support this too, and the reason I'm supporting it is because I've been banging on about it as a service industry, and we heard today from those young people how uncomfortable they were on the bus, etc. And I don't blame the bus drivers if there's not a support mechanism for them to step in when there is an unruly or an aggressive person on that bus. But when you're in a competitive tendering process, you can have one company that is reinvesting in its staff, uplifting and upselling those frontline staff to make that a pleasant and more enjoyable ride, etc. But if the others don't join in on that, then you are behind the eight ball, and you will be for a while. And I think through this, if we can have a say in the weightings in those contracts and that type of thing, well then I think that's all good, and that's what we've got to get. Because the understanding is a bus service, at the end of the day, is a service industry. So I'm fully in support of this.
Was it?
Just bring it.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I don't. Disagree with what you're saying, what Jan is saying about where running of our buses should be, where it actually belongs. I don't disagree with that at all. What's important though is that we're not losing anything out of this. We're not giving anything away. There's no transfer of our delegations to anybody else. The committee will only have powers which can make recommendations for us and for the different territorial authorities. So there are some very positive things in it too about how we can make future public transport. And in fact, new buses should be low carbon and energy efficient. And it's very clear in the terms of reference that that is what this new committee is going to be tasked with doing, as well as leading the development of a whole new joint work program. So I think it has got a lot of potential. I understand the concerns that have been expressed, but I urge all councillors to support the recommendations.
Look, I'm sorry, but I didn't see you, and that was Phil's side of the pie. So because I didn't see you, I'm just going to let Phil, and nobody can please haul me over the coals for a breach of standing order. Thanks, Phil.
Because I am going to support it, but I actually share every single word that Vicky said. I think as long as it's just not in the way of our future goal of actually controlling our own public transport system by one means or another, whether it's actually by the council or a transport authority that we set up.
I mean, I just, since I've already breached standing orders once, I'll do it twice. I don't, the reason that I said what I said was that I have made it crystal clear to ECAN that being involved in this does not diminish one instant our commitment to what we have publicly claimed from the minute that we were elected, which is our strong belief that City Council is in the best position to lead the public transport system for its own city. And obviously in close engagement with Simon and Waimakariri, whose their constituents, several of whom, many of whom have moved from Christchurch City and now seek to return to the city to work every working day. And the challenges in the early morning and the challenges in the late evening are something that we have to work on and take responsibility for together, because that's the only way that we're going to solve them. So I just wanted to make that crystal clear that going down this pathway for me is not the end of my absolute commitment to continue to lobby central government for a restoration of a fully functioning public transport system, fully integrated with all of our other transport responsibilities, and with the Waimangaroa District Council fully involved. So I will put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That's carried. Would you like it recorded?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.